Welcome to Lesson 111 of Saxon Math Course 2. In this lesson we're going to be dividing scientific notation. So we're going to divide numbers by using scientific notation. Alright, let's get started. We have no new vocabulary. So the reason we even use scientific notation is because of the great distances that we have to deal with in science and very large numbers that we deal with. So for an example, one unit astronomers use to measure distance within our solar system is called an astronomical unit, or an AU. And the AU is equivalent to 150 million kilometers, which is actually the distance from the Earth to the Sun. So they take the Earth to the Sun, that distance would be considered one astronomical unit, or one AU. And then they can measure much further distances just using AUs rather than these great big gigantic numbers. So for example, if we were to look at a point in Saturn's orbit, when it's 1.5 billion kilometers from the Sun, that is really equal to 10 AUs. And we could figure that out by using our unit multipliers. If we took the 1.5 billion kilometers and then we converted that to AUs, knowing that 1 AU equals 150 million kilometers, then as we multiply and we divide, we would get 10 astronomical units. So we know that the distance from Saturn to the Sun is 10 times greater than the distance from the Earth to the Sun. So when we divide these very large or even very small numbers, when it's a negative exponent, it's helpful to use scientific notation. So, if you look at it down here, we got the same thing as the unit multiplier, but we're dividing instead. So we come down here and we're using scientific notation. Here's our 1.5 billion comes right here. That's 1.5 times 10 to the 9th in kilometers. And then we take this here, our unit multiplier here, and it comes down here, and we know that 1 AU is the same thing as 1.5 times 10 to the 8, which is 150 million kilometers. And then when we do that division, we're going to end up with 1.5 times 10 to the 1, which when we convert that, it ends up being 10 AUs. So let's look at that. Let's see how we can apply that a little bit. So the distance from the Sun to the Earth is about 1.5 times 10 to the 8th. Light travels at a speed of about 3 times 10 to the 5th per second. So about how many seconds does it take light to travel from Sun to the Earth? So how would you do that? What would you do? Let's go ahead and subtract those two. Let's take 1.5 times 10 to the 8th and divide it by 3. It's divide times 10 to the 5th. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide 1.5 by 3, and we're going to get 0.5. Well, 0.5, so we got 0.5, sorry for the handwriting, 0.5 times 10, and then we take 8 minus 5, so 10 to the 3rd. But we're not done yet because we're not in scientific notation, are we yet? So we've got to move our decimal over, so we're going to have 5 times 10 to the 2nd, and that's going to be our answer. Let's go ahead and take a look. All right, there it is right there. Or you could put it into normal, convert it to standard form and just say 500 seconds is about how long it would take for light to travel from the Sun to the Earth. All right, so as you saw in that example, when I divided, I subtracted the exponents, and you've done this before, not in scientific notation, but you've done it in normal fractions. So recall that when we multiply them, when we're multiplying scientific notation, we add these two together, and we'd get the 8. When we divide, we do just the opposite. We subtract them. So here we're going to subtract the 6 and the 2, and we're going to get the 4. You see that right there. Just remember, when we're dividing, we're subtracting exponents. When we're multiplying exponents. So let's practice that. All right, so let's look at A. Go ahead and pause the video, get your answer for A, and then restart the video. Okay, for A, I'm going to divide 6 by 1.2. I'm also going to divide 10 to the 8th by 10 to the 6th. So when I divide the 6 by 1.2, right here, we know that we get 5. Now 5 is already, the decimal is already where we need it for our scientific notation. So now all we need to do is deal with our exponents. So 8 minus 2, or 8 minus 6 equals 2. So our answer is 5 times 10 to the 2nd. All right, please do this next one and then restart the video. Okay, on B, you should have divided 3 by 6 and come up with 0.5. And then when you subtracted your exponents, 3 minus 6 is a negative 3. 3 minus 6 is a negative 3. But we have this 0.5. And we've got to move that 0.5. We've got to take that 0.5 right here. And we've got to move the exponent over to here, which is going to give us another negative 1. So we're going to be at 5 times 10 to the negative 4. Because if you remember right, if we've got 21, we've got to move our decimal this way, we add 1, and that would be negative 2. But in this case here, we're moving it to the right, so we're going to subtract 1. So it's going to be 5 times 10 to the negative 4. Okay, now let's look at C. C is a little bit tricky, but see if you can do it. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide the 2 by 8, which ends up being 0.25. And then we've got this negative, we've got negative 2 minus a negative 8. Well, if we have 2 negatives, what does that change that 8 to? It changes it to a positive. So negative 2 plus 8 equals 6. So we have a 0.25 times 10 to the 6th. And then we've got to roll this over one time, which is going to give us another minus 1. So 6 minus 1 is 5. So we're going to end up at 2.5 times 10 to the 5th. Hopefully that's what you got. This part right here is a little bit tricky, but it shouldn't be. You should have that down pat pretty good now. All right, let's try 2 more, our final 2. Go ahead and see if you can calculate both of those and then restart the video. All right, let's look at these. C, I'm not going to deal with this. I think you know how to do that type of division. But let's just go here. Negative 8 minus a negative 4 means negative 8 plus 4. So that's going to be a negative 4 plus whatever change you need to make with this. So you should have come up with 1.5 times 10 to the negative 4. Okay, let's look at D here. D, we've got 6 divided by 1.5, which is a 4, which is already what we want. Now we just need to do our exponents. So we've got negative 4 minus a negative 8. Well, a negative and a negative makes that positive. So it's negative 4 plus 8 is a positive 4. That's what you should have came up with. Hopefully you did. There it is. There's your TIDs. If you have to do anything to a power, just write to the first power or to the second power. Do those 5 problems, please, or 4 problems, and write down any questions you have. Thank you for watching the video. We'll see you tomorrow in class when we work on the assignment.